डॉक्टर बाबासाहेब आंबेडकर ओपन युनिव्हर्सिटी.
Namaskar, dear students. I Assistant Professor Dharmishta Patel, School of Computer Science, welcome you from Chaitanya Studio, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University, Ahmedabad. We are lecture series in Postgraduate Diploma in Cyber Law, subject E-commerce, E-governance and E-contract. Today we will start discuss Block 1 E-commerce in Unit 1 Overview of E-commerce. Now let us see with today's agenda. First one is learning objectives. After going through this chapter, you should be able to understand models in e-commerce, FDI in e-commerce, and technical and legal issue of e-commerce. Second one is introduction. Then after discuss is the features, advantages, disadvantages, models of e-commerce and some legal issue of e-commerce. Now we will start discussion about the introduction. What is e-commerce? Generally, the advent and growth of e-commerce in India brought some significant legal and regulatory challenges. Electronic commerce, commonly known as e-commerce or e-commerce, in the last two decades, widespread use of e-commerce platforms such as Amazon and eBay has substantial online retails. E-commerce is the platform for buying and selling of products or services over electronic routes such as the internet and other computer networks. It involves sharing of business information and maintaining and conducting business transactions and relationships using a computer or a similar device connected to the telecommunication network. The traditional methods of communication channels like post and telegraphs, which once played a pivotal role in spreading commerce across the globe, have now transmitted with the tremendous advancement of technology. E-commerce technologies have changed the framework and environment of business worldwide. According to US Census Bureau in 2011, e-commerce accounted for 5% of total retail sales, and 2020, with the start of COVID-19 pandemic, it had risen to over 16% of retail sales. Now, how does e-commerce works? E-commerce is powered by the internet. Customers access an online store to browse through and place orders for products or services via their own devices. Modern electronic commerce encompasses a wide range of technologies such as email, mobile devices, telephones, etc. It paves the way for a boundaryless virtual marketplace without any geographical limitation, reaching a global audience. In the present era of e-commerce is considered a star of the information technology revolution and the internet. Now, silent features of e-commerce. There are in 7 features. Now, first one is a ubiquity. Internet or web technology is omnipresent. Omnipresent means present everywhere at the same time, and the outcome is known as a market space. Is an e-commerce platform for creating online marketplace for businesses, communities and events. A market space is a place extended beyond the traditional boundaries and removed from the temporal and geographical location. It is the method that saves the transaction cost and time. Customer convenience is enhanced and shopping costs are reduced. Unlike traditional commerce where one has a visit to the marketplace physically. Second one is a global reach, means business initiative to increase the access between a company and their current and potential customer through the use of the internet. The e-commerce transaction have crossed all the cultural and national boundaries across the globe. Market space includes potentially billions of consumers and millions of businesses worldwide compared to the traditional commerce which could not cross national boundaries. Now third one is a universal standards, means the standards that are set by all the nations around the world. E-commerce has become universal with the support of the internet. They are set by all the nations as opposed to the traditional technologies which differs from one nation to other. For the merchants, market entry cost remains constant all over the world, and it is lowered by virtue of the internet. For the customer, the prices of products are lowered. The prices and are uniform throughout the world and can be explored from part of the world. Fourth one is a richness. Richness means information richness refers to the complexity and content of a message. Internet technology allows a rich video, audio and text messages to be delivered to large number of peoples. Fifth one is the interactivity. E-commerce allows two-way communication between the merchant and customer. It can be used for both sending and receiving information from the internet using different websites. Interactivity occurs when the brand and product interact with the user before he or she even becomes a customer, creating a uniquely tailored social experience. Now, sixth one is the information density. Information density is the total amount and quality of information available to all market participants, consumers and merchant alike. The information that is made available on the web is more accurate and reaches the person fast is timely manner. The information is complete and is available to consumers, merchants and participants. This reduces information cost and raises quality. Communication cost drop dramatically, while on the other hand, currency, accuracy, timeliness improve greatly. Information becomes ample, cheap and accurate. Now seventh one is a personalization or customization. The term e-commerce personalization relates to the set of practices in which an store displays dynamic content based on the customer data such as a demographic, intent, preferences, browsing histories, previous purchases and devices uses. For instance, whether the customer is shopping on a mobile, tablet or even a smartwatch. The technology permits customization by changing the product according to the user requirement. Due to information density, a lot of information about the customers and their requirement can be stored. These are the above discussion with 7 features of e-commerce. Now let us start with advantages of e-commerce. The messages and information reach across the globe in no time, which makes the process effective and cheap for both suppliers and customer. Cost. The cost required to set up an office is very high compared to the cost of setting up a website, which in turn can be integrated with the fewer efforts. Internet. New market segment can be explored with the use of the internet. An online store works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year through an electronic data interchange system. Cost of order processing is reduces. Now supply chain management. Supply chain management is a simpler, faster and cheaper with the use of e-commerce. Now business can reach worldwide and there are high possibility of establishing business partnerships. Now discuss disadvantages of e-commerce. Electronic data interchange is expensive for small business entities. security of internet is a poor as a virus invention and hacker attacks can be paralyze e-commerce. As a result of this, many companies and customers are harmed. Privacy of e-transaction is not guaranteed. The use of internet is only limited to the young and highly educated people. Elderly people are not prone to use the internet and hence cannot be customer for the internet based business. E-commerce depersonalization of shopping. Now models in e-commerce, there are e-commerce models are two types of e-commerce: inventory based model and market based place model. Inventory based model of e-commerce. Inventory model means e-commerce activity where an inventory of goods and services is owned by an e-commerce entity and sold to be consumers directly. Marketplace based model of e-commerce involves an e-commerce entity providing an information technology platform on a digital and electronic network so as to act as a facilitator between buyer and seller. Now FDI in e-commerce. FDI is when a company takes a controlling ownership in a business entity in another country. Now for foreign direct investment, FDI in India regulated under the Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999 FEMA Act. The Department of Industry Policy and Promotion, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India enacts policy announced on FDI through press notes and press releases where are notified Reserve Bank of India as amendments for Foreign Exchange Management Regulation 2000. The prevailing policy in India does not allow foreign investment in the businesses of selling via online platforms to consumers. The current policy does not allow FDI in business to consumer e-commerce activity, but 100% FDI is allowed business to business e-commerce and in the marketplace model, under which the e-retailer does not sell directly consumer, instead provides a platform to other sellers. US based e-commerce corporation like Amazon and eBay operate in India through the marketplace model. The consolidated FDI policy issued by the DIPP FDI policy lays down two entry routes for investments. First one is automatic route where foreign investments do not require prior approval of the government, and second one is government approval route where prior approval of the government of India foreign investment promotion board is required. Now inventory based model and FDI. What is inventory model with FDI? Inventory model is the business to consumers model of e-commerce, and FDI is in such model is strictly prohibited. The FDI policy 100% FDI under the automatic route, the marketplace model of e-commerce activity. However, FDI is not permitted for the inventory based model of e-commerce activity. However, the press note 12 of 2015 clarified the subject to the consolidated FDI policy with regard to sectors and provisions of services through e-commerce. The inventory model will be under the automated route. Press note 12 of 2015 provided the certain manufacturers engaged in single brand retail would be entitled received FDI upon certain conditions such as the follow. And first one is an Indian manufacturing who is permitted to sell its own branded product through wholesale retail e-commerce platform. Second one is an Indian manufacturer who is investee company manufacturing in India in terms of value at least 70% of its products in houses and sources at most 30% from other Indian manufacturer. A single brand retail trading entity operating a brick and mortar store. Additional condition as mentioned under press note 12, the product should be sold under the same brand internationally. Single brand product retail trading would cover only products which are branded during manufacturing. Therefore, branding a separate activity may not be considered as a branding for a single brand. Non-resident entities, whether as an owner of a brand or otherwise, shall be authorized to undertake single brand retail trading through an agreement with the brand owner, thereby entitling the non-resident entity to undertake single brand product retail in India. FDI proposal of more than 51% would require 30% of the value goods purchased to be from within India, and preferably from MSME villages, cottage industries, artisan and craftsmen. Now, marketplace model and FDI. The FDI policy allows 100% FDI under the automatic route for the marketplace model of e-commerce activities. Now, what is Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion? Certain clarification in marketplace model in the press note. The Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion had established certain clarification in the press note pertaining to the marketplace model. They are as follows. Marketplace models entities have been permitted to transactions with sellers registers on its platform on business to business basis. However, each seller and or its group companies would not be allowed to sell more than 25% of total sales of marketplace model entity. On the other hand, this is amendment affect business of certain e-commerce entities where the majority of sales are made by one retail entity. Marketplace model have been allowed to provide support services to sellers in respect of warehousing, logistic, order fulfillment, call center, payment collection and other services. The paves way for e-commerce entity to have in-house support services instead of reaching out for third-party services providers. For any warranty or guarantee or returns of goods and services, these models, the seller will be held responsible and e-commerce entity. The responsibility for the delivery of goods and the customers, ensuring customer satisfaction would be that the seller and not intermediary entity. Added to that liability under the consumer production law would be the seller and not the e-commerce entity. Under this marketplace model, e-commerce entities should not exercise ownership over the inventory goods purported to sold. Otherwise, such ownership over the inventory will be inventory model. The e-commerce entity cannot be directly or indirectly influence the sale prices of goods or services and are obligated to maintain a uniform level. Now we will discuss the last topic is in chapter legal issues and solutions in e-commerce. With the advancement and increases use of online media, online businesses is becoming a fast emerging trend. Every 5 in 8 companies are operating online, conducting e-commerce businesses. But being functional online doesn't mean you can escape legal matters. E-commerce is understood to mean the production, distribution, marketing, sale or delivery of goods and services by electronic means. Over the past few years, global trade has to extend explosive growth of electronic commerce. There are various legal issues associated with the e-commerce businesses. Authentication and identification, security of systems, privacy and data protection, intellectual property rights, taxation, incorporation problem, and trademark security problem. Transaction issue. Now we will discuss one by one legal issues. First one is authentication and identification. Although the internet eliminates the need of physical contact, the transaction that takes place, especially consumer related transaction, occurs between parties who have no pre-existing relationship. These raise a lot of issues pertaining to persons' identity as well as the authenticity thereof. Some of the issues that need to be taken into consideration by companies are digital signatures to be used as an authentication tool. The Information Technology Act stipulates that digital signatures may be considered as one of the methods used to determine authority of the persons to authenticate on record, electronic record. The digital signature must follow public key infrastructure. This act as a limitation on the use of any other technology for the purpose of authentication. If Indian companies commence using other technology for the authentication process which are not legalized, it could be said that there has been no authentication at all. The IT Act provides that an electronic signature shall be deemed secure electronic signature if the signature creation data at the time of affixing the signature was under the exclusive control of the signatory and no other party. The signature creation data was stored and affixed in such exclusive manner as prescribed under the IT Act. Identity theft and impersonation. The IT Act provides the identity of persons shall be deemed to have stolen when any unique identification of a person such as an electronic signature or password is fraudulently or dishonestly used. The Act prescribes a penalty of imprisonment of up to 3 years and fine up to 1 lakh rupees. Now discuss the second one is the security of systems. Security over the internet of immense importance in the present era since e-commerce companies manage their sensitive information including a sensitive personal data or a personal information on the servers. The companies must ensure that they have adequate security measures to safeguard their system from unauthorized intrusions. A company could face security threats internally as well as externally. Security can be maintained by making use of various security tools such as encryption, firewalls, access code, passwords, virus scan, and biometrics. Now discuss third one is privacy and data protection. As an important consideration for every e-commerce website is to maintain the privacy of its user in an e-commerce platform. It is quite difficult to complete any online transaction without making use of some form of personal information of the other user, such as details with regards to their identity and financial information. With the help of innovative technology, lack of secure system, it would be easy to obtain personal and confidential information about the individual and organization. Under the IT Act, if the privacy of person is deemed to be violated, in 2011, Section 43A of the IT Act titled Reasonable Practices and Procedure and Sensitive Personal Data or Information Rules 2011 provided a framework for protection of data in India, which covered two categories of information under the Act. They are personal information which is defined as any information that relates a natural person either directly or indirectly in combination with other information available or likely to available with the body corporate is capable of identifying such person. Sensitive personal data or information, which means that such personal information of a person which consists of password, financial information such as a bank account or credit card or debit card or other payment instrument details, physical, physiological and mental health condition, sexual orientation, medical records and history, biometric information, Now discuss the fourth one is intellectual property of rights. The internet is a boundless and unregulated medium, and therefore the protection of intellectual property rights IPR is the challenge and growing concern amongst most e-businesses. The efficacy of Indian laws in safeguarding the rights in e-commerce is not an easy task. Some of the significant issues that arise with regard to protecting IPRs in e-commerce are follow as first issue is determining the subject matter of protection. With the advent of new technologies, new forms of IPRs are evolving. The challenge for any businesses would be determining the how best its intellectual assets can be protected. Second is designing a platform content creation through a third party. Often e-commerce entity outsource the job of designing websites creation of content to third party contractors. This creates an issue regards to who would own the IP in the design functionality of the website and in the content. Third issue is a use of third party content on website. Not all content available on the public domain can be used for free without prior permission of the owners such content. The content could range from information to logos of third parties. The IP of said content is owned by the third party, and e-commerce businesses has to obtain the requisite approvals. Fourth issue is a prevention of unauthorized hyperlinking and meta tagging. E-commerce company often have to deal with hyperlinking, deep linking, framing and meta tagging issues in order to achieve their marketing goals. The judiciary in many countries has with issue concerning infringement of IPRs arising hyperlinking and meta tagging activities. They have held the hyperlinking, especially deep linking, may constitute copyright infringement, and on the other hand meta tagging may constitute to trademark infringement. Fifth one is a domain names. A company that commences e-commerce activities would first have to get a registration of its domain name, which must not be similar to some other domain names or some existing trademark of a third party. If any company's domain name is found to be similar to that of other, then company could be liable for cyber squatting. Now discuss with fifth one is a taxation. Taxation of e-commerce transaction has raised several issues. Tax authorities all over the world are examining the tax implication of e-commerce transactions and resolving the mechanisms to tax such transaction. In India, the high-powered committee constituted by Central Board of Direct Taxes submitted its report in September 2001. The said report envisaged upon the need for introducing a separate tax regime for e-commerce transaction based on the principle of neutrality. The high-powered committee maintained that the existing laws are sufficient to tax e-commerce transaction and held that there is no need for a separate regime for the taxation of e-commerce transaction. In this chapter, we have studied the meaning of e-commerce, its silent features, advantages, disadvantages, and its model. We also studied how FDI plays a vital role in e-commerce. Finally, we ended the discussion with the legal issues and solution of e-commerce. Thank you.
स्वाध्यायः परमं